Welcome to the ThunderCast, your martial athletics podcast produced by the fans, for the fans, with your hosts, Russ Livingood and KD Hudnall. We're bringing you the thundering word on the thundering herd each and every week, so keep it right here. The ThunderCast is on the loose. Thanks for downloading another episode of the ThunderCast. You can follow us on Twitter at ThunderCast_pod. Russ, we have a hell of an exciting episode this week. There has been some major news that has come out surrounding herd athletics. Both, I don't even want to give anything away. It's just both current and past and future, really. And I'm really excited to get into this episode. There is a lot that we need to talk about. So without any more delay, let's get into this episode with a quick word from our sponsors at Leasure Oliver PLLC.
If you've been hurt in a wreck, let the personal injury law firm of Leasure Oliver PLLC handle every detail. Don't be a victim twice. Find them on Facebook and the web at 304carwreck.com or call 304-521-4042.
All right, man, let's roll with this thing. I'm not giving anything away, but you guys really need to stick around this week. If you tune in and just listen to the 5 things, that's fine. That's cool. This week, you really need to stick around for the entire feature and get what's going on in around the herd. This is a great episode. I don't think I've been as excited about an episode in a long, long time. And my baseline pumped up level is pretty big for each and every episode, but this one kind of goes a little bit beyond. So Russ, start me off with 5 things that every herd fan needs to know this week.
How about 7? All right. 7 things every herd fan needs to know this week, as always, brought to you by Ignite Link, the Tri-State's premier IT management team. Number 1, men's basketball Saturday home games have been bumped up to 4 p.m. tip-offs for the rest of the year.
Calling it fans first and fan-friendly, like tip-off times, right? That's a nice, weird tongue twister to say, but makes sense, right? You can get that earlier game. It means people can make the pilgrimage to the cam with some daylight, a little bit easier to get in and around. We all know that. So good move. Let's probably opens the door for a few more people to make those games, specifically those Saturday games. Might be a little tougher for the midweek tip-off when folks might not get off work until 5 or a little later, but you really got to like that for the weekend tips. But anyway you slice it, being able to make the move or make the drive to the cam in the daylight is always a good thing. I think it's a sweet move. It's something that they should have done. That was a big thumbs up.
Yeah, and to clarify, it is only those Saturday games that they have changed these tip-off times to 4 p.m. But that is something that has been brought up to them repeatedly. They said they also had a very good turnout at the Louisiana game. And I don't know. I've got 3 kids. It is tough for me from a 7 to 9 game. Sometimes it goes, basketball games, the last 2 minutes can last 30 minutes. Then it's 9:30 when you get out of there and trying to get them home. Now, I'm not saying change this because of Russ Livingood. People have brought it up. I have not. I heard it and I thought, well, maybe I can start taking the kids to some of these games a little bit earlier because often we don't have much to do at 4 p.m. Right. So no, I'm for it. And I do think that it will allow some kids that aren't necessarily going to be up that late or that would interfere with their bedtime routine, trying to get them calmed down for bed. I'm all for it.
Yeah, I mean, you're a microcosm of a larger portion of the fan base. There's so many people with kids, and you just exclude them, or because they start asking that question: is it worth going downtown, man? We ain't gonna get home. We haven't had dinner. It's all that stuff. 4 o'clock tip off on a Saturday is perfect. You don't have to rush out of the house to get there. It's perfect. It's right in the sweet spot. You still get out probably no later than 7. If you want to still go home and cook dinner, you can. If you want to catch dinner downtown, you can. It's just a good move. Good move. A+ decision for the herd on this one.
Number 2 is cross-divisional opponents for football have been announced. That gives us our full schedule. We just don't have the times and dates. Those usually come out from the Sun Belt Conference for your conference foes on March the 1st.
Right. And I got to say, right off the rip, it's really cool to get Southern Miss back on the schedule. They've been off the schedule for a number of years after we played them like 14 or 15 consecutive years in the Conference USA. So it's a great series that we've had with them for, God, well over a decade. It's just great to have them back. And in their own right, they got some big transfer portal news. Southern Miss, they picked up the Florida State quarterback that hit the portal, so they're going to be a little bit improved, maybe a lot of bit improved. Of course, we there's a time and a place to talk about what the Herd's been doing in the portal, but just knee-jerk reaction. Getting ULM and Southern Miss, it's not a bad draw, right? I mean, it's depending on how you look at it. If you're a fan of like tough teams and you want the toughest schedule you can play to kind of galvanize your team and battle test them, that's one thing. If you also might need to pick up an easier win, I'm not throwing shade at anybody, but both ULM really struggled last year. They could be much improved too. We just don't know, but this is a different kind of animal than Arkansas State and South Alabama, right? So I'm excited about that, and you're right. We won't know dates, the actual dates or kickoff times for a little while longer. We learned that the Sun Belt does its conference scheduling around everyone's out of conference scheduling, so that makes it kind of an easier path to schedule those out of conference games that you might like to have instead of trying to settle for who you can get if you need a home game type thing. So pretty cool to know at least who the teams are that are going to be on the Sun Belt slate in 2024.
Yeah, Louisiana Monroe at home, Southern Miss away, and I have been wanting to get down to Hattiesburg for years. Now is the time that I am looking, and I just did a little cursory glance. It looks like flying out of Charleston directly to Hattiesburg with stops, but I mean, as close as you can get to the Hattiesburg destination. $350 or less round trip. So
not bad.
It's not too bad. It's higher here. It's higher, I think, in Lexington, or same price. I think it was around Lexington and Cincinnati. So I'm thinking that this might be the year that I get to go down there and do some of that famous tailgating that Southern Miss is known for. So
yeah, it's always. I would like to go to Hattiesburg too, but it's never just lined up. It's always one of those stadiums that anytime Marshall has talked about like stadium renovation or whatever, I've always like do kind of what Southern Miss does, because they kind of got it right there and it looks cool and it fits the bill, and it's a similarly sized stadium and everything. So I'd like to see it firsthand, and Southern Miss by and large over the years has always been a really respectable fan base. They're not just like full of clowns that just toss you. Every fan base has them, obviously, but I've always felt that Southern Miss is a true peer program to Marshall, very much aligned kind of the same way. And it's just great to have them back on the schedule.
Yeah. Number 3, Marshall lands 2 on the Reese's Senior Bowl roster for the first time ever. That's Rasheen Ali and Ethan Driscoll.
Awesome, man. I didn't think we were going to see any, especially since Rasheen Ali accepted the East-West Shrine Bowl bid. I thought, all right, well, that's what it's going to be. And we talked about this before. We talked about how occasionally they will invite someone who is not a senior to be a part of the Senior Bowl. And Rasheen Ali is now one of those guys, right? And what a great opportunity. I mean, this is the showcase game for postseason showcase games. Yeah, the Hula Bowl is great. We got a couple of guys going to the Hula Bowl. I don't know if we're going to talk about that or not. And the East-West Shrine Bowl is great. They got the Gridiron Showcase. We've had guys in all of those before. But to have 2 for the first time ever in the Reese's Senior Bowl, that's a big, big, big deal, man. We've had guys that have gone to the Senior Bowl in the past. I can think right off the top of my head, of course, Chad Pennington, when he was Senior Bowl MVP. Chris Jaspers, a center from many years ago, he went. Tyree Brady went. Gator Hoskins went. So we've had guys that have played, and there have been more that I'm just not thinking of right now. But to get 2 for the first time ever, huge congratulations to Rasheen Ali and Ethan Driscoll, man. What a great way to make that draft stock rise. I am pulling hardcore for those guys.
Yeah. So now we have a little question, though. Rasheen Ali has accepted the East West Shrine Bowl. It's Thursday, February the 1st.
Yeah.
Reese's Senior Bowl is February the 3rd. That's Saturday. So what's he do?
He doesn't play the Shrine Bowl.
That's what we figure, but
that's what I would do. I mean, no disrespect to the Shrine Bowl, right? But the Senior Bowl is far more prestigious, and you're not going to put yourself in a position to have to play 2 games. But the most important part of that really is the practice week, because you're being coached by NFL coaching staffs. So that's where not all the scouts, but that's where a ton of scouts are. There are more eyeballs there than there are going to be at the Shrine Bowl, without a doubt, in my opinion. Plus, who's going to pass up on the opportunity to be coached all week long by NFL coaching staffs? So you see guys that form relationships with coaches, and they may go undrafted, but lo and behold, one of the 2 coaching staffs from the Senior Bowl ends up giving this guy an opportunity in free agency, and bam, that's all you need is an opportunity sometimes. So my gut says you pass, you withdraw from the Shrine Bowl respectfully, but I'm playing the Senior Bowl.
It's what I figure too, but I don't know if there will be any kind of statement comes out from East West Shrine or all. Probably not. All right, number 4, Dalton Tucker and Eli Neal commit to the Hula Bowl. You asked if we were going to have it on there. It's a thing.
It is a thing, man, and that's cool too. A couple more guys into the Hula Bowl. We've had guys again in the Hula Bowl in the past, and we may have had multiple in the past, but this is cool because I didn't realize that the game actually moved out of Hawaii, and now it's in Orlando, which is just right up the road from me. It's this coming Saturday, and it's an early kick. It's like noon, so getting there, if I'm off, I'm really, really, really considering like going up there. I talked to my wife about it, and she's like, oh, we could just go burn a few hours at Disney Springs and walk around the shops and have a good time while you go to the game. And I'm like, hey, that kind of works out because everybody's relatively close, and we wouldn't have to take 2 cars and all that crap. So if I'm off on Saturday and the weather is decent, I mean, it doesn't even have, as long as it's not wet, I don't want to go sit in the rain, but I'll go. I mean, I'll throw on a hoodie and go watch Eli and Dalton, one more time, because, hey, that doesn't happen very often. I was really hoping and praying for a Florida bowl game to try to get that opportunity to see the herd one more time. And if I can't get the whole team, I'll take what I can. So if the stars align, I'm going to make the trip. But super cool, man. I'm happy for those guys. The Hula Bowl teased a little players arrival video yesterday, a little montage, and caught a glimpse of Eli real quick in the airport. So guys are there, man. It's time to compete. And this is another one, right? It's a showcase game, so there'll be tons of scouts there. Both of those guys have an opportunity to stick. Man, we're a little biased, but they can play, man. They can play. So you get them in front of the right set of eyeballs, get them in the right situation, they can play. The ability and skill levels there.
Number 5 is Kim Caldwell picks up her 200th win.
Whoa. Well, obviously not at Marshall, but career win, right?
Right.
Let's see that double.
I didn't think I needed to say that.
You should have done the old, who was it? Kenny Mayne, maybe, that said 200th win, not this season. That'd be a record.
That'd be a record or something. Yeah.
Let's see that double on the herd sideline. Let's do that. But first of all, congratulations. Those milestones are cool. The graphic they put out, I got to say this again because, I just noticed these things. She had some really sweet shoes on in that graphic they put out. But let's see her go from 200 career wins to 400 and 500 and 600 right there in Huntington, West Virginia. They are rolling. Man, they are rolling. All these graphics coming out every day or every other day. Number 1 in the SBC, number whatever, top 10 in the country. Man, and we still aren't packing the cam the way we should be packing the cam for that team. I mean, buy low, sell high, and there's no buying lower than right now because the hype has not caught on with the majority of the fan base. It's caught on with us, and we're doing our best to share and spread that energy. But for some reason, man, people still aren't turning out the way they should. And I'm telling you, if you go, you will go freaking back. You might even go and go, you know what? Season tickets for the rest are only $25 or whatever. I'll go ahead and pop for the rest of the season, even though it's, part of the way done. They are exciting, man. Exciting.
They are exciting. And Saturday's game was decently well attended. I think they reported 999
That's
on the
good.
box score. It's not where we want it, but it
Nope.
is good. Thursday night game, it wasn't near as packed as that, but
Sure.
it's pretty good crowd on Saturday. And Coach Kim brought that up in press conference.
Yeah.
Said, number 6 here, 19th annual Valentine's Day dance. Marshall University Quarterback Club of Charleston. This is February the 17th, 6 p.m. to midnight.
So what's the details on that? What's the cost? And give me the whole 9.
So you got the Embassy Suites is going to be the location. And I believe that has been the location since I've known of this event. I don't know how far back it goes, but I did have the pricing up and I don't have it written down here. So while I look for that, talk to me a little bit about this event and what it does and that.
Well,
sort of
also
thing.
while you're looking, answer a question for me because I'm just not as averse. So is this Embassy Suites in Charleston or is there one also in Barbersville or something?
No, it's in Charleston, and
Okay,
it's
so
the
the one down
QB
by
Club of it's QB
by
Club of
the
Charleston is the one that puts this event on.
so down by the town center, right? That
Yeah.
Embassy. Okay. No, it's a night out, right? To where you can dress up and you can have a nice, dinner and go to a nice event all while supporting the herd. And, the quarterback club is kind of a, obviously as the name would entail, like a football, only type fundraising arm. So they do great things down there. They have a couple events every year and they do, they're the type of, organization that will have like killer giveaways. I mean, I see some of these things and you're like, man, remember a couple years ago, wasn't it them that gave away like a tailgating trailer or something like that? Man, that was awesome. So it's a great way to get out. You and your significant other can dress up for the evening, have a nice, romantically herd themed evening, all while supporting Marshall.
And I do have the sponsorship and other details here. First, you can get a room there and use the code 90P for the block of rooms that gets you a discount at the Embassy Suites. Tickets include dinner, beer, wine, and soft drinks. There's a full bar available with drink tickets or cash. Talk about drink tickets here in a minute. You can register online at herdzone.com or contacting the Big Green office at 304-696-4661 or biggreen@marshall.edu. An all-in sponsor is $7,000, gives you 2 10-top tables, program recognition, 100 drink tickets, 2 sideline passes for a select home game, a signed football, and your company logo is on all event materials. The green table sponsor, $3,500, 1 table of 10, program recognition, 50 drink tickets, 2 sideline passes for a select home game, and a signed football. A white table sponsors $2,000, table for 10, program recognition, 25 drink tickets. If you just want to go as an individual, it's $175 a person, and a coach's sponsor is $100.
Cool. So several price points to fit your agenda. This is a nice way to do a corporate type sponsorship and reward some of your employees. That'll be pretty cool. And plus, man, some of those perks that come along with that, pretty nice.
Yeah.
It's just a great opportunity. It's a great fundraising opportunity for herd football, for the quarterback club. And on the flip side of that coin, it's a great opportunity to, like I said, get out, get dressed up, have a great evening, and be surrounded by people that share a deep love and passion, Valentine's Day pun intended, for the herd.
Mm-hmm. I believe that this and the reverse raffle are the top 2 fundraising events that they have every year for Marshall football. And I know this being the 19th annual of this, and like I said, it's been at the Embassy Suites for as long as I can remember. It may have been there for the entire time. This has been a well-attended event, and it seems to just keep getting bigger and bigger. Yeah. I've got a lot of friends that have been able to go. I have never been able to go. Sometimes it has coincided with me taking my daughters to a father-daughter Valentine's Day thing here in Huntington. But this year it falls a little differently the way that's scheduled, so I might be able to go to this. I don't know.
It's a nice uptick, right? You're talking about this event growing. The reverse raffle was really huge last year. You probably expect a little bit of growth this year with that. The Paint the Capital City Green event is always big, and now moving that up to the flight school hangar, that was cool. That just added a different element to it and made it a little bit more herd centric. I mean, I tell you, these seem like little small things, especially if you're not somebody that goes to these events or has gone in the past. It just sounds like a little tweak to it. But if you're somebody that goes to these events, you really see the change in the atmosphere and you're like, man, this kind of really is a different experience than it was just 2 years ago, maybe. So I love this stuff, man. I love that these events grow larger, and that just means like the things that they offer in these reverse raffles get to be bigger and better. And it's just great all the way around, right? We all know that we have to grow like organically, right? And it's events like this that get more people involved, that make more people want to come to things. So I love that, man. And I really hope this one is, this year. I mean, why not set an attendance record? That's the type of thing you want to hear. Like, we sold out of our allotment, or, we had to, bring in more tables because demand was so high. I just love that, man. I think herd fans are just, we might not be the biggest fan base in the country. Obviously we're not, but damn, if we don't probably rank up there in passion per capita, you know what I mean? I love who we are as a fan base.
Our seventh and final thing is our weekly transfer portal update. And since we had this last week, we had one enter the transfer portal. That was Jaden Harrison. And then I'll let you talk about him in a second. And we have Ashton Heflin, a linebacker from Georgia Tech, Ty Perkins, a wide receiver from Cincinnati, and Jacarius Clayton, a tight end / defensive end from Mississippi State. Those three are confirmed to be committed here. There are others that you may see out there on various reporting sites, but they have not been confirmed yet, so we don't put them on there. We would rather be 100% accurate than first or put somebody out there and then not be.
Yeah, that's the best point to make, right? Some folks might, people send me stuff all the time. Like, have you seen this? Did you, this guy committed? And I'm like, well, just because, On3 says he did, or he may have, a player may have, but we're not going to take the chance. We would rather be accurate. Like you said, rather be accurate than first, because we're not trying to break news. That's not what we are. We want people to get accurate info. I don't give a crap if I'm the 5th, 6th, 10th, 30th, 50th one to tweet about it. I don't care. It's more important to me that that's a legitimate move that was made, right? But I guess the most, let's call it a little earth shattering, is Jaden Harrison hitting the portal. Entirely surprising? No. The fact that it basically came in the 11th hour of being able to enter the portal, that was a little surprising. I thought we'd cleared this initial window of entering, right? You can come out of the portal there's no deadline really right now, but entering, you had to hit that window, and he kind of hit it on the last day. So that kind of sucks, because when you get a guy that makes all these All-American lists, and a lot of us are circling him as a big time returning weapon to the offense. Now, he has not committed elsewhere, so it is not a done deal that he won't withdraw. You just can't bank on that, right? You can't bank on that. So he was a huge part of the success, obviously, of the Marshall football team overall. Massively impactful, obviously, from a special teams kick returner standpoint, and even made some plays in the wide receiving game. So very, very versatile weapon to hit the portal. I'm not mad at it. I'm never going to be mad at it. It's just the nature of the game. Right? You go out and you make moves and try to bring somebody in to augment that. And for all we know, the guy that is the next All-American kick returner is on the roster. We don't know. I mean, he's vastly dangerous in the kick return game. But there are any number of guys that you can put out there that if they make a move and see some daylight, they're equally as gone. They're not going to get drugged down from behind. So I always wish our players that hit the portal the best, and Jaden is no different. This one is one of those, when I saw it, I went, ooh. There have been a few of those guys that when they entered, I went, man, that kind of stinks. But I hope he finds the spot he needs to be in. I hope he lands on a contender that is going to vie for a national championship. Whatever it is that needs to check the box that he needed checked, I hope he finds it, right? Because Marshall is that school for some other guy. We're checking boxes for guys that are coming here. Whatever the box is, we're checking it. So I'm never mad at these guys when they leave. I'm a little like, I just have to cringe a little bit because, he was somebody I wanted back. That's all. But impactful, you got to call it a loss right now because he's in the portal and he's not out of the portal. So I expect even more movement. I said this in our recap, even more movement. I mean, damn, we did the recap episode, and what do? We came out and 4 guys got added to the class, 3 transfers, and of course, kicker from Huntington High School, Johnny IAA, the first team All-State kicker. Everybody was clamoring for him to get the offer and to stay in town, and that's a big get, right? So, going to provide some competition in the kicking room, but you always have to wait and see what the transfers in look like. But we knew what we had in Jaden Harrison, and him for now, he's portal out, and that kind of sucks.
Well, getting all these accolades, we're just going to put a big target on him.
For sure.
What does somebody that thinks that, hey, we've got a good offense, we got a good defense, we need that field flipping weapon, we need that threat to take it to the house, we need for people to do the pooch kicks and give it to us on the 38 because they don't want to kick to this guy. And there are big teams out there that just are going to say, we got to have that. And they're going to go out and they're going to try to get that. So I don't hate it for him. He transferred here from Vanderbilt. He took advantage of that injunction or rule, whatever you want to call it, where you can transfer twice and there's no repercussions. And he is going to move on for his final year, and he's probably going to go to a big time school and have the chance at playing in the playoffs.
Yeah, I mean, that's what you want to do. If you got one more to go, you might as well make a run at it and find the best. Also find the best, fit, because we've seen guys hit the portal thinking they're going to get an opportunity and they don't play. And they've essentially derailed their careers, or they have just not gotten the snaps or the playing time they thought they were going to get. And that's always a bad, for the player, that's a horrible situation, right? So it's not always a grass is always greener situation. Sometimes it is very much not greener. And the other flip side to that is all of the fans, the Marshall fans that continually go, why is this happening to our program? Gee, it happens to every program, man. Every single one.
All you got to do is go to any number of the national portal tracker things. Our portal tracker is about as thorough as you're going to find here. Yeah. By the way, you can find that on ThunderCast.online. It's the 4th article down, I believe, right now. It's the one with our logo, the bison head, that you can click on it and you can find all of that up to date within about 3 days worth. We do it, at least twice a week. Yeah. But if you go to any of these national outlets, they're going to have just click by number of commits, in and out or whatever, you're going to see 20, 30. I mean, it's just, that's what happens. And not everyone's on scholarship like we've talked about. Not everyone was getting playing time. The world is not ending. That is what happens year in, year out. You're just hyper focused on it now because we are using the word transfer portal and we have trackers online for such a thing.
And you get equally as excited when a guy comes out of the portal to Marshall, right? So just keep that in mind. I mean, you can't have 200 players on your roster, right? You can't just keep continually bring people in and nobody ever leave. A roster spot has to be vacated for somebody to fill said roster spot. It isn't always great, and I think the ones that people really get amped over are the ones that, like I do, I go, ooh, but I'm over it in a millisecond. They're not over it. They're over it maybe never. I don't know, but it's just all part of the game now, and it's part of the intrigue of sports. I don't necessarily like it. I don't look forward to it, but it is what it is. And I say this every time we talk about the portal. I always view it as an opportunity to get better with that roster spot. It doesn't have to be a wideout for a wideout. It doesn't have to be a QB for a QB, but it's an open spot that now gives you an opportunity to upgrade a position. At some point, you want them all to be upgraded. It may not work out that way, but whenever somebody leaves, that's a roster spot that is open for somebody to provide some improvement to a certain position group room. And that's the way I choose to look at it. So take that for what it's worth.
Same. Well, that ends our this week's 7 things every Herd fan needs to know this week. As always, brought to you by Ignite Link.
I tell you what, I think probably the vast majority of our audience just sat there and went, you just did 7 things and you didn't talk about the biggest news story of the week for the Herd. Well, there's good reason for that. It's because we're going to dedicate quite a bit of time to that, because this is, well, potentially, I don't know the right way to describe it. I don't have the right adjective, because it's not something that we see very often. In fact, it'll be only the second time ever that we've seen it. Then it starts to allow us to talk about answers to other questions that we get to ask. And yeah, we're talking about the greatest wide receiver to ever play college football. At me if you want to. Randy Moss headlines the College Football Hall of Fame class of 2024. By the way, if you haven't seen the entire class, it is stacked. Usually those Hall of Fame classes are, but this one is really stacked. And Moss, of course, got news of it live on television, and the genuine reaction, you just can't make that up on the fly. You can tell that meant something, man. And so, of course, now we get to talk about some of the things that go along with that. And but first, we just need to talk about that itself. Marshall's got other guys in the College Football Hall of Fame, right? Moss is not the first. There are a number of guys. There are some all-time greats that are still on the ballot that, for whatever reason, just can't get elected, and they unbelievably deserve to be elected into the College Football Hall of Fame. But
Chris Parker.
Thank you. But this is about Randy Moss, the greatest ever. I don't care who you are. The man is a verb, right? He's moved into the pop culture lexicon, and players, era of players later, 25 years later, kids that weren't even born yet when he was playing ball, know what it means to get mossed, right? So he has transcended the sport and moved into the pop culture lexicon in a term that may live on forever, right? As far as the game of football goes, and a description, a term. So talk to me. Give me your reaction, right? When you first saw it, when the graphics came up, we knew it was on the ballot, right? Remember, we talked to Christian Spears last year, and he was like, we found out he'd never been nominated, and we're going to fix that. And so we had been thinking about that since that conversation. And we knew, like, how is he not a first ballot Hall of Famer? There's no chance in hell that Randy Moss is not going to be a first ballot Hall of Famer in the College Football Hall. So the announcement comes out. Marshall puts out the announcement, the graphic. Then we see him get the news live on TV. How did you feel about that in the course of those several hours when you were seeing those things float across the timelines?
Well, so I was at church and then left and got the news that it had already happened. But I mean, it was just all over anything that you brought up. I mean, I had an ESPN notification on my phone about it. It was how I saw it first. Then you can't go on Twitter, Facebook, the internet, anywhere without seeing it. It just seemed to dominate the news. Rightfully so. I thought it was super cool that they took the time to do that. And listen, yeah, it was something that I don't care if you know in your heart that you're going to get an award such as this. One, no matter if you know and expect it, it's still going to get you when they announce it.
Sure.
Trust me. You know, I know.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then for it to be like, you think that it's just going to be an article that comes out, when they announce the entire class or whatever, but you're on live television and someone comes out and tells you, I mean, there is no hiding a reaction at that point, and it's going to get you. I'm surprised he didn't go into tears, because I probably would have, and I'm sure that meant the world to him. And I can't imagine a college football player. I don't care if he was there 2 years. I don't care if he was there 1 year or whatever. He absolutely dominated and was the best player on the field in every single game that he played.
Yep.
Had he been there a full 4 years, let's say the NFL said some kind of new rule, no, you had to play 4 years at college before you could come. There probably would not be a chance in hell that anyone could break the records that man would have put up.
No kidding.
He was ready for the NFL when he was here in 1996, our last year in what is now FCS.
Right.
He was ready for the NFL in 97, our first year in FBS. He was definitely ready when everyone was saying, oh, well, now he's up against an SEC defensive back. Let's see how he does. Oh, by the way, he jogged past the guy on a touchdown for 75 yards on Marshall's first play of the game. Jogged by him.
Yeah.
I've never seen a man be able to kick it into a gear like he could. Mm-hmm. He would seem to be running and would be running fast. And then all of a sudden he just decided, well, I need to run faster. And he did. Mm-hmm. He had the hands. He had the leaping ability. He had the breakaway speed. He had the control, the body control to contort his legs to get the feet in, that little shoulder bump where he would just bump someone enough to cause that separation to where they couldn't do pass interference on him. It's just everything that you wanted to teach a wide receiver, he had. And I just can't imagine a better wide receiver ever in college.
It's things. Well, first off, let me say this. He was ready for the NFL when he graduated high school. You come out of DuPont High School in 1995. He could have went straight to the NFL. Like, this ain't the NBA, and that's not a thing, obviously. But if ever there was a player that was NFL ready straight out of high school, that guy was ready straight out of high school. And for those of us that grew up in that area, you knew it. So when people for the first time would see him on a college field and they would go, well, we'll see if he can do it in college. We already knew. We've been seeing this for years already. Then you see him dominate at the collegiate level and they go, well, let's see if he can do it in the NFL. And then he dominates the NFL, to the point that where you're a Pro Football Hall of Fame first ballot inductee as well. So the impact on Herd football, I don't like to speculate if he were here for 4 straight years, because Marshall would probably be somewhere else, right? They probably would not be in the Sun Belt right now in 2024. Because they were still a very early mover in this, and there was a lot. I mean, think about that, being one of those. What if you get that Big East invite? You know what I'm saying? Like, what if that happens? So I don't like to prognosticate of where it could have been, because we've done all right for ourselves, right? And I just appreciate the greatness that we saw. And then I go back and watch the highlights all the time, man. I mean, all the time, because that's always going to be near and dear to my heart. And I know you're the same place, because I was a freshman in the stands in 1997 watching these plays happen, and some people, those students that were freshmen in 1996 had it even better than me, So I just am in constant awe. The play, the highlights, they stand the test of time. Some things are cool in the moment, and then a few years later, they're not that great. And Moss is one of those guys whose highlights never get old. They stand the test of time. The plays are as exciting on the 1,000th time you see it as they are the first time you see it. So what we're talking about now, Russ, though, is rarefied air doesn't even encapsulate it, right? When you talk about Marshall and Marshall athletics history, because now with this induction, Randy Moss becomes the second Marshall football player to be inducted into both the College Football Hall of Fame and the Pro Football Hall of Fame. The other, of course, being Frank Gunnar Gatzke, and Frank Gunnar Gatzke is the only one who has his name on the facade at Joan C. Edwards Stadium. And athletic director Christian Spears learned that was kind of the criteria that it took to retire the 88, to get the name up there on the facade. I had heard that years ago, just kind of in casual conversations with friends of friends that were, working in the athletic department. So I knew that was a thing. I didn't know that Christian didn't know that. So now you get to talk about some conversations, Russ. And we heard Christian say we're going to honor him properly. When we talked to him way back then, if he gets in, we're going to honor him properly. So now you start speculating. What's 2024 going to happen? You're going to bring Moss back for a game. You're going to honor him, and it's going to be like this big to do. And are we going to see the 88 get retired? Are they going to take it out of circulation? Right? If somebody happens to be wearing it right now, is that player going to be able to keep it until he graduates or leaves the program, and then no one else will wear the 88? Let me start there. Is that the thing to do? I'm gonna ask you a series of questions, right? So I don't want you to expound too far. Let's start there. They bring Moss. Let's say they bring Moss back. They're going to honor him with his, Pro Football Hall of Fame induction, his College Football Hall of Fame induction, all that. Do we retire the 88 also?
Retire it? No, I do not. I put it up on the facade. I put a statue of him at the stadium. I do as many honorifics as we can for that man, but I don't take the number out of circulation. I would go as far as doing everything but that. I mean, anything's on the table except for taking that number out, and I don't think that I would ever take it out. I don't know. I get, like, in professional sports, retiring numbers and things like that. I think that's great. But in the college world, I'm just not that way, especially in football. You've got 100 and some people on the field, and you start retiring numbers, and I know our criteria. I have a feeling that criteria will kind of change in the future, because that's just going to be way too hard to get people to be able to have that retired, in my opinion. I think that that's a worthy discussion to have. But you start taking numbers out of circulation and everything, and then you never have those again. I don't know. I mean, what if you had, I don't know, I'm trying to think, you start retiring in the 80s and everything, and all of a sudden you got so many tight ends, so many wide receivers that would be in that number. And I know you can have single digits in 18 and things like that, but I just don't do it, man. Maybe that's a bad answer from me, but I do not do it. I don't take it out of the circulation. I put it up there. I put a statue to him. I have a Randy Moss Day. I have everything in the world that you could think of to honor the man. But I don't take the number off of the field, the jersey off the field, because I think that every time you see that jersey out there, if it's on the sidelines, if it's in the field of play, making a play, you automatically say that was Randy Moss's number. I think taking that off the field just is one less thing to see that number. And I think every time I see that number, do you remember who had it right after him? I do. It's Demetrius Doss.
Demetrius Doss.
Yeah. And it went from Moss to Doss. He was a wide receiver, and he had it. And every time I saw that, I immediately thought of Randy. So I think leaving it on as somebody to wear, maybe you make it to where you have to, I mean, the team has to vote on who can have it. I don't care. But having that on there, I'm 100% not for removing it. And here's one more thing. Let's say it's the number 6 5 years from now. Someone gets to come in here, they wear the number 6 for 4 years, they put up ridiculous stats, they go on to the College Football Hall of Fame, the NFL Hall of Fame, and 20 years from now we retire that number. That's taking it out of not just the offense, but you would have to take that number off the defense as well, because in college you're using the same numbers in football. It doesn't happen in basketball. It doesn't happen in baseball. It doesn't happen in softball. But you're taking that number off the field from two different things, and we haven't had a number 6 on defense that's had that happen in this scenario. So I'm just not for it, and that's why.
I respect your opinion, and I can actually see exactly where you're coming from, and you make valid points and great points. I retire the 88. because there's nobody that has put Marshall football on the map like Randy Moss. That's
Agreed.
it. No one has done it. We have had absolutely great players that have shined in the collegiate ranks, and we have had players that have shined in the pro ranks. You're talking about multiple Super Bowl champions, guys like Ahmad Bradshaw, great all-time runner, multiple Super Bowls in the NFL, right? Chad Pennington, we don't have to talk about his resume at Marshall, multiple comeback player of the years in the NFL. I mean, no, it's not a Super Bowl championship, but dude, if that doesn't speak to the toughness and the resilience, then nothing does.
And the performance. I mean, it's not just that you come back from something. You got to do it at a high level to get that award.
So I get it. I get where you're coming from. I also understand the argument of, take it out of the rotation. It's one less. But this is different. For right now, Marshall's been playing football for a century, and they've got 2 guys that have been elected to the Pro Football Hall of Fame and the College Football Hall of Fame. And some of the guys, like we just mentioned, might make it to the College Hall of Fame. We have guys that are in the College Football Hall of Fame. Troy Brown's in the College Football Hall of Fame. Will he ever make it to the Pro Football Hall of Fame? I don't know, but that's a discussion to have. Do you take the number 8 out of rotation if he gets elected? If that's what you do, yeah, that's what you do. So I retire the 88. I do it. I retire it. And I roll the dice on how many times it's going to happen and to have to retire a number. And I just can't get past the fact that he put Marshall on the map for a whole country. People outside of Huntington largely, and the Southern Conference really, largely didn't know that much about Marshall outside of the plane crash until Randy Moss came along and Eric Kresser was throwing touchdowns like crazy. And then Chad Pennington was throwing touchdowns like crazy. Right. And then it just kind of went from there. Right. Moss was the blip on the radar, and then Chad continued greatness, and then Byron continued greatness, and then we had all these running backs and wide receivers, and it just continued, right? All these great defensive players. But it was that really, it was him really that put it on the map nationally. Okay. Heisman finalist. Yeah, we had that after. He did it first. Biletnikoff Award winner. Never had that since, So there's things that are rarefied in their own right that go along with the 2 Hall of Fame inductions. I think you just have to retire the 88. I do. I love what you're talking about, because you also have to think about, well, how do we honor our greats that won't necessarily make it to a NBA Hall of Fame or a Pro Basketball Hall of Fame or a Baseball Hall of Fame or Pro Football Hall of Fame, but they were great here, right? And I've talked about this before, and we'll revisit this together right now. I think the easiest thing to do is that you retire the jersey, right? The number stays in rotation, but you retire the jersey. There are other schools out there around the country that do that. Marshall needs a ring of honor or a ring of fame or whatever you say. So when you walk in as a brand new Herd fan, 3 generations removed from when Randy Moss played, Chad Pennington played, you walk in and you can go, okay, so these guys were a big deal. Before you even see the first highlight, as a little kid, you walk in and you see a name up there and the number 10, and you go, okay, this Chad Pennington guy must have been a big deal. Maybe that coerces you to go to YouTube or whatever is the next iteration of YouTube 40 years from now, and you watch highlights and you go, dang, this guy was pretty good. But I think you retire the jersey. So let's talk about the difference, right? The number stays in rotation.
Mm-hmm.
You make a replica of the actual, a sign replica of the actual jersey, the MAC era number 10, the MAC era number 7, the Southern Conference era number 8, right? The Conference USA era number 44. And you display those. You retire the jersey. You put the names up there of these guys. They've earned it. If they're a Herd Hall of Famer, dang on it, they need to be honored at the Joan. You need to walk somewhere, and not just the banners in the concourse. I'm talking about inside the stadium. When you walk inside and sit in your seat, you need to look around and be able to see that. So let's talk about that for a second. What is that the move? Is that the best move you think for honoring those guys?
Yeah, because like I said, I don't want the number taken out of the rotation, especially, let's say you take number 7 out for Byron Leftwich. Okay. That takes it off of defense and offense. That's a popular number that you're going to have. Number 10 is popular. Mm-hmm. Number 8 is popular. All those guys are deserving, but you take everyone that is deserving, and then you're taking it off of offense and defense.
I get that.
And so, yeah, I'm with that idea. that you retire the jersey, you don't retire the number. By the way, do you know when Gunnar Gatsky's number was retired? I had to look it up just now, so I'm
No,
not
I
trying
don't know
to.
the year. You asking the
Okay,
year? I don't know.
yeah,
I mean, what is it?
it was.
72, right? Number
See,
72?
I had 71 in my head.
Oh, I thought it was number 72, but I remember
It probably is.
But I remember that we had linemen in the 90s that wore 72, so it had to be
Well,
far after that.
it was October the 15th, 2005.
There you go.
They retired it then. So what I was trying to do was go back in my head and think, since then, have we actually retired that number, or do we just have it up on the facade? And I'm sitting here thinking, you're saying 72, I'm saying 71. I actually now think you're right, and I'm going to verify this because I can look it up. But I think I have seen someone wear that number since then. Now, we're talking, it's been 18 seasons since. I think I've seen that number. And I think I've seen both of those at one point. And I could be totally, totally wrong. But I mean, just seems to me that we're already not taking the number, the one that we have, out of the rotation.
So if that's what they're doing, then they didn't retire the number. They retired the jersey without actually saying we're retiring the jersey, right? Yeah. Because all that's up on the facade is the name and the number. There is no, like jersey, kind of like what's hanging up in the cam with the basketball jerseys. But you got to do something, right? You got to do something. And it can't just look, I love that we've honored Gatsky and the numbers up there, but you got to do something. You got to revamp that look,
Yeah. And even now I'm looking at it right now, and it is number 72, and it just says Gatsky number 72.
Correct. It's got to be revamped.
Yeah. Yeah. Take that off, put up a jersey of it, put Frank Gunnar Gatsky and have his jersey there, like you're talking, replica of the jersey, sign of the jersey, whatever. Mm-hmm. But there is plenty of room. It doesn't even have to be where it is right now. Right now, it's like right on the strip that says Joan C. Edwards Stadium and James F. Edwards Field. And I don't think that I'm speaking out of turn. We actually talked about this on the show before. Those are not in the correct color green. And with the synergy of everything that we want to do, the branding that we want to do, we're taking those letters off at some point. We didn't get to do it before this year, but they're going to come off and they're going back on in Kelly green. So while you're taking those things off, take that off. There's plenty of unused room up at the top. It says Marshall, then it's got the football helmet, University right in the center. To the left and the right, there is nothing. And there's a lot more room on that to put things than down where the Gatsky is.
Yeah, but honestly, it doesn't even have to go back on the press box, right?
It doesn't.
You have all of these flag poles and light poles that go around the stadium. It's nothing to put up something there to where you can begin to work your way around the stadium, even if you wanted to do that. There's other things that can be done, but I think the short and sweet of it is we've got to go a little more creative than just a name and a number, right? And let's go so far as to say, like, I don't know if you want to get this detailed in, but I think you obviously need to put, like, let's say, Moss 88, 1996-1997. You need to know, give context to the era when they were here. Or if it was some massive accolade, like, Chad was the all-time leading passer when he was done at Marshall. It's since been eclipsed, but when he left, he was Marshall's all-time leading passer, right? And those are the kind of things that you should kind of say or should be displayed or whatever. But not on everybody. But if they were the number one in something when they left, you should just share that, right? But I think we're in agreement. Retiring the jersey is the thing to do. And I want to take that a step further and removing football from the equation. This should be done at every field and court that we have. If an athlete at Marshall University is in the Marshall Athletics Hall of Fame, their jersey should be retired somewhere on the field that they played, right? Morgan Zirkle's number 18. She's the head coach right now. If her number 18 should be retired at the dot somewhere. All those great softball players who's in the Athletics Hall of Fame should have their numbers, a jersey retired at the dot. Same with the Cam Henderson Center. right? We've got jerseys up there, both men's and women's basketball. They're up there. But I think you need to go and do the era, right? The same thing, the era jersey. I mean, we've had the all-time leading scoring record broken twice. And granted, Kinsey did it just last year, so it'd be a quick turnaround to do that. But it's been a number of years since John Elmore broke that record. And there's no John Elmore jersey up there, right? And but those are the things. You need to honor these folks. Like great basketball players. I know they're not John's probably not in the Herd Hall of Fame yet. He will be.
Yeah,
and when he is, that's when you do it. That's part of the ceremony, right? And if you're going to do the Hall of Fame class every 2 years now, then that gives you ample time to prepare all of these jerseys, make all of the improvements to all of the fields so that you can have that be part of the ceremony. Yeah, you honor them at a football game where everybody's at. Then you can do a separate thing at the dot, at the jack, in the cam, so that they can see their jersey get unveiled, on the facades of those arenas and courts and fields. I just think that's what you got to do. I think that's what you got to do, in that area.
I agree. I agree wholeheartedly, man, because how many different deserving athletes have we had over the years? I mean,
well, how many are in the Hall of Fame? That's how many.
Yeah.
At least.
Well, yeah. Well, look at, even with out of football, you mentioned, earlier, you had to clarify and say football player, not athlete, because Hal Greer is in both. And, Hal Greer deserves to have his number. I mean, we've got a statue of him up and everything. I know his number is up there, but again, I'm not so sure that they have taken those out of the rotation. Maybe they have. And I did look, I went through like 10 different years right now. We have not had a 72 on the roster. I'm currently up to 2016 and there's not a 72 on it either. So we obviously have retired that number. Shockingly, Russ Livingood got one wrong on here. It's the only mistake we'll ever make on the ThunderCast.
The point being, it is just time, right? There is you can't give me a good reason of why we don't do this for all of our Hall of Fame athletes. There is no good reason that you can tell me that it's not done already, especially when people notice. We notice. And I know other fans notice. We just happen to have microphones in front of us, and that's how, if being Herd family is important, then honor those family members, right?
Sure.
They earned it. They earned it. They sold tickets for you, man. People came to watch them play. So do that for them. They earned it. I mean, there's probably not many more decorated athletes top to bottom than, say, Morgan Zirkle, for example. Her bio on Herd Zone is ridiculous, but still there's no 18 at the dot. There's no Conference USA era 18 jersey posted at the dot, and there needs to be somewhere. There's a lot of places you can do it. I don't know where. There's a building facade. There's a whole outfield wall. You can do all kinds of stuff, right? You can build something new and just display that. Those things need to happen. And anytime, like I said, you have a class, a Hall of Fame class, that should just be part of the class. Everybody's jersey gets retired. Let's talk about one other thing when we talk about this Moss thing, Russ. And I made the tweet, and I got to talk about it. My initial knee-jerk reaction was, okay, if they're going to honor him, let's say he rolls into town. He's all dressed out in this super fly suit. He's looking the part. It's a big deal. My man has got to have the cat in the hat socks under the suit pants, right? And I'm going to need like the camera to zoom in and just to give me like a little 3 or 4 inch pant leg raise to see the socks under the suit pants, because I have no doubt that the Joan C. Edwards crowd would erupt. And that would be such a cool moment, man. So give me that. Randy, if you're listening, I know you are. Why wouldn't you be, right? Go get some cat in the hat socks, man. You got to rock those when they bring you back in the fall. That'll be a moment that one more little thing that you can give to this Herd fan base to get the biggest eruption of cheer that I can imagine. I think it would be such a cool moment, man. Out of line or totally inbounds with that take, Russ?
I'm with it. I want to see it. And I'm already committed that when we do whatever event we have to honor this, I'll be wearing them no matter what. I like your idea that we need to pass them out for that game or for the season ticket holders or whatever. I'm 100% with that. Real quick, too, we talked about this being a 2024 thing. It's been announced. The actual induction is December the 10th of this year. So I could see them waiting until after that ceremony has happened, but I think that you do it the same season that he's going to be,
he's part of the
getting
class. So the
inducted.
2024 season, 2024 class. I don't think it really matters that the induction ceremony is not till later.
That's what I'm getting at. That's what I'm getting at. Yeah. So I go ahead and do it this year. And capitalize on that and go ahead and plan the entire thing is, hey, here's what we're going to do and this and that. Obviously you have to go around his schedule. He is a talking head on the NFL. So, you have to coordinate that with him and everything that you can do. There's a lot goes into it. You can't just say, hey, here's what we're going to do and exclude him from the plan of it and just hope that he can be there. Right. So a lot's going to have to go into it. And I think that us included, we've thrown out a bunch of stuff. You've got to find a schedule to when you can do these things. So if things don't happen the way that we want them to, if things don't happen when we want them to, we have to understand it might not be for a lack of trying from our athletic department.
I understand. This is not a cast blame scenario here, but
yeah,
here's my deal. First of all, let me backtrack a minute and we'll talk about the stocks again. Yes, I think this is an opportunity for Marshall to capitalize on the excitement here. You make that a perk of buying season tickets. Yes. That's what if you have to go somewhere and have custom socks made, 10,000 pair of socks, then you do that, right? And you make it part of season ticket package. You order 4 season tickets, you're going to get 4 pairs of socks, right? That kind of deal. Also, I think that lends to being, well, dude, if we're going to accentuate these socks, then we need to be looking at an early September home game so people can be rocking shorts and rocking socks to the game to make it look really cool. Because who else does that? Nobody else has done that. That's not a thing that somebody has done because that was Moss's thing in 1996. He and Doug Chapman wore those socks together, but people think of Randy Moss, they think of the striped socks, right? A lot of people do. So this is an excellent opportunity for Marshall to probably increase its season ticket sales this season if that is a perk of buying season tickets. And let's face it, if you're going to buy 10,000 socks, it's not going to cost you that much money to do it. And if you get some cool black and white striped ones and you get a Kelly Green 88 put on the side of them somewhere, dude, I'm telling you, somebody call me, right? I think we can put the creative juices to work here and probably maximize some ticket sales for the herd. I mean, think about those casual fans that go, I'm on the fence. I don't know if I'm going to buy them. I'm only going to go to 2 or 3 games. That could be something really simple that pushes them over the edge. You go, I got to have these socks, man. When's that going to happen again? I got to have them. So I'll buy season tickets this year. You justify the cost. I think we got to do it. Do it. Perk of season tickets. Do it. Do it. I am the amount of ideas that have flowed through my head after this, the amount of things that I could potentially see in the fall. I feel like I might be unjustly putting a lot of pressure and expectation on Marshall to like fulfill my vision here. And I'm not trying to do that. It's just like, man, this is like once in a lifetime thing, and they have an opportunity to knock it out of the park. This isn't one of those scenarios where I feel like, all right, well, let's cut some corners here. Let's save a buck here. Nah, man, pay what it costs, right? Pay what it costs, because I think people will in turn show out for that. Let's think about if this happens to turn out and it all lines out and they schedule it for the Stony Brook game. You ever think in your mind you might see a sellout crowd for a game against Stony Brook? Not any other way, but damn if you might not if this goes down that game, I mean, an extra 10,000 fans showing up to that game is not out of the realm of possibility, for crying out loud.
What about a 2-day event where there's a banquet the night before, doing it all? I would pay money to go to that.
Sure would.
and you do that, and then you got the Saturday. You make a night of it, and then you start tailgating the next morning. Huge, huge. I mean, opportunity here.
Yeah,
to do
it is
anything that you can imagine. You got that opportunity.
Yeah, we sure do, man. Any way you get around this, I could talk about this for a long, long time because this is such a great thing, man. To look at the potential to change the facade of the Joan. We have all looked at the same press box basically for a long, long time, and now it might not look the same in 2024 and beyond, right? And you who knows how long that it would look like this. So this is one of those milestone moments for a very decorated football program, right? And this is an opportunity to seize this and just knock it out of the park, man. And I know it doesn't matter. Some people will always complain, but those that understand what is at play here and see the potential and then see a really great execution of a plan and provide a lifetime, once in a lifetime experience. This is very, very big. Very, very big.
Hey, we didn't even bring this up during this, but we are end zone suites, and that end zone is getting a total renovation. That is a blank canvas for where you could put things in the future as well.
Yeah,
I mean, that's
it's
an
just part of
entirely different. Yeah, it's an entirely different thing. We talk about the facade of the press box and everything, and you said it doesn't have to be there. We're getting ready to have a lot more physical things to have plaques and jerseys and signage on.
Yeah.
So.
We've seen some of those renderings that there's a lot of open air, right there. So it would be an easy addition to flank the suites with something that you could, properly display some things that you could then probably, if you ever had to do it, just kind of build out a little bit. But yeah, man, the possibilities are truly endless right now because you're working with a blank slate for a large portion of the stadium. I am eager to see the plan. I am eager to see what the weekend looks like, which game it's going to be. I know in the grand scheme of things, look, man, I'm nobody in herd circles, right? I don't make decisions. I don't even have input. I have great ideas, or I think I have great ideas, but logistically, I can just say whatever I think's a good idea, but I don't know the logistics behind those ideas.
Yeah.
And I understand that some people will listen to what I say and they go, man, that's a great idea. They ought to do that. Or some people might listen and go, man, that's a terrible idea. Why would you even say that? I get it. I see this as a huge opportunity to make a big impact, to mend some fences with some people, maybe a way to re-engage a large portion of former players. Think about it. All of Moss's former players, how many of those guys would want to be back for that day? You know what I mean? You can go a long way into mending some fences that may not be as sturdy as you would want them to be, and also set the tone for relationships in the future. So this is a big milestone moment. You could re-energize some fans, you could re-energize some former players, you could gain more support. This is just a great opportunity to do that, man, and that's why I think this needs to be a pull out all the stops type of event. That's just my 2 cents, but bring it on. I'm ready to retire the 88. You not so much. Me, retire the 88.
Well, when I say retire, it's different, like what you said, put it up there and honor it.
But, well, you mean immortalize the 88, right?
Yeah,
I'm saying nobody else can wear it.
It's already been immortalized. And one of the things that I hate about this sort of thing is, he's been gone now from Marshall 26 years, and there's been a lot of 88s on the roster, so he wasn't the last one to wear it.
So
and I know it's just in my OCD mind, that's what I always hate about when you retire numbers, and it's in Major League Baseball. It's not just college.
That's what I was going to say. Think about the easiest example of that is when they retired the 42.
42.
Right, that was long after. And then they said, all right, whoever the last guy is to wear 42, nobody's going to. Was maybe Mariano Rivera was the last.
It was.
So, and that was decades.
Mm-hmm.
So I get it. And it's not the same situation, right? Moss and Jackie Robinson are not the same situation.
Right.
But it's not like this would be the first time ever. And it's happened probably at other programs where they finally retired a number of an all-time great from decades before that has been in rotation forever. So I get what you're saying. I just think personally, you do that. You do that. You know, I'd love to see a statue too. I glossed over that. I mean, we have talked about that a number of times, and you freeze frame the leap over the Army defender, and that's kind of like that to me is the quintessential, you know, freeze frame for a statue. It kind of looks like the Jordan Jumpman, but it's not. That's like one of the earliest. It's not technically what you would call you got mossed because he wasn't catching the ball over a guy, but that's a you got mossed moment. It's just not with a catch. It was with a leap. But I could talk about this forever, man. We got to go around the herd. I'm sorry. We got to retire the 88. Let's go around the herd.
All right, around the herd, we're going to start with softball. We got a commitment out of Spring Valley, Kate Spry, number one outfielder in West Virginia.
Yep. Morgan Zirkle continues to impress, and they're making a marked recruiting focus for our top tier players in the state of West Virginia, which we as West Virginia natives, born and raised, you still live there. I currently do not. That's something that I love seeing. I love seeing our 304 athletes continue to get opportunities at Marshall University, because you can come here and you can win here. And being that she's from Spring Valley, I really love that, because that means that brings instant fan support, right? People got to drive 15 minutes, 20 minutes up the road to the dot to see a half a season's worth of games. That's the kind of stuff you think about. Owen Porter, same thing. Spring Valley High School, instant fan support, lifetime Marshall fans came here. And the story that Owen Porter has written for himself from being recruited, played locally, high performer in high school, now an all-time great herd legend. This is the same opportunity that Miss Spry has with herd softball. Okay. And I love that, man. I love Cabell Midland, Huntington High School, Spring Valley High School, even down to Charleston and Hurricane Parkersburg. I don't care. But when you keep inside the city, that means a little bit more, I think. But I love that. I love what Coach Zirkle and that staff is doing. We're really getting down to the nitty gritty. We're getting really, really close to the first pitch of softball season. So, man,
less than a month away now.
Creeping up really fast, isn't it?
All right, we're going to move over to swim and dive. They had a pair of meets on Friday of last week. They lost the meet at Ohio, but Grace Kelsheimer won the 1 meter and 3 meter dives. Molly Warner had 2 wins, 200 meter freestyle and the 200 meter backstroke, and Maya McBride won the 100 meter backstroke. Amongst all the other finishes that they had, they picked up several second and third place finishes at that meet. Then Saturday morning, they had a quick turnaround right here at home. They won 13 out of the 16 events in the home meet versus Bowling Green, and they swept the podium first, second, third place in 4 of those events. I've got the article up here with all the different ones, and I would just like to go over these. 200 medley relay, first was Maya McBride, Paige Blanton, Madeline Hart, and Clava Katayama. 1,000 meter freestyle, Charlotte Thompson was first. Jenna Bopp was second. 200 freestyle, Madeline Hart, Audrey West, and Allison Dodd swept the podium on that one. 100 meter backstroke, they got second, third, fourth, and seventh, but they did not get first place in that. It's Maya McBride, Gabrielle Ivy, Parker Lynch, and Kate Bolgerskaya. 100 meter breaststroke also swept the podium. Paige Banton, Jenna Bopp, Jessica Humby. 200 butterfly, Esther LeBon was second. Molly Warner was third. Tatum Robinson was fifth. 50 meter freestyle, Clava Katayama was first. Claire Kinney was third. 3 meter dive, Grace Kelsheimer finished second. 100 meter freestyle, Clava Katayama first. Madeline Hart second. 200 meter backstroke, Maya McBride first, Gabrielle Ivy second. 200 meter breaststroke swept the top 4, Paige Banton, Audrey West, Jessica Humby, and Nina Nugent. 500 meter freestyle, Esther LeBon was first, Charlotte Thompson second. 100 butterfly, Madeline Hart first, Molly Warner third, 100-meter dive. Grace Kelsheimer, as mentioned, was first in that 200 individual medley. Molly Warner first. Paige Banton, Allison Dodd, Esther LeBon rounded out the top 4 sweep there. And finally, 200 freestyle relay. First was Clava Katayama, Gabriel Ivy, Parker Lynch, Audrey West, and nipping on the tails, they came in third, but they were really close to first even. Maya McBride, Claire Kinney, Nina Nugent, and Molly Warner. Holy hell. I know it's only 2 teams,
yeah,
right?
so
But it was just an absolute beatdown of, finishes and just ridiculous. And one thing that I didn't mention from that Friday is we had 25 season bests at that point.
That's what I was going to say. I know I'd seen it was like 25 somethings and you say it was season best. Yeah, this was a straight up drubbing, right? I mean, bang. I know this is usually a basketball term, but it kind of applies in the pool too. They dunked on Bowling Green at this meet.
They cannonballed on them.
They did, man. It's like, what an outpouring here. And I know you had plans on going, and it just was a terrible day.
Weather killed the
family. What an opportunity to go. You would have seen the utter domination at the natatorium, man. Dang. But maybe you'll have another opportunity to go. That's but an impressive weekend. Even though you kind of go 1-1 on the weekend in events, the individual showings and the bests and all, it never, that was a laundry list you just ripped off, right? And it's hard to keep track of all that because you're like, you expect when you start doing that, you expect the list to maybe last like 5 or 10 seconds. You're like, oh, we had a pretty good showing, and then you're like, holy hell, that was like a solid minute and a half, maybe 2 minutes worth of killer finishes.
Let me read from the phone book here. That's what it was like. They have Friday through Sunday. They're going to be in Buffalo, New York, facing Buffalo and Duquesne. If you look at it, they are in the same. They are doing a head-to-head against Buffalo, and then later that day they're in a meet with Buffalo and Duquesne, and that's going to be all 3 of those. So a lot of different meets. It looks like it's 2 different weekend meets. One is just a head-to-head, and the other is amongst 3 or maybe even more.
That's got to be nice to take a trip to Buffalo, New York in January. That'd be nice.
I've been through there in February, and it was none the better.
Yeah, I bet.
Track and field, they have the Marshall Alumni Classic coming up on Saturday morning. They're opening up the doors at 8 a.m. They're going to have a lot of different alumni in there that they're going to be hosting and doing some things. And then I believe 10 a.m. is the first meet start. So if you got nothing better to do on Saturday morning, and we do have a home game for basketball that day, swing on by and go to track and field first.
Yeah, be pretty cool. That's a nice kind of cool event.
Women's basketball crushed South Alabama 90-64 at home on Thursday. Then they beat Arkansas State 68-51 on Saturday.
Yep.
We'll get into those in just a second, but travel to Georgia State Thursday at 11 a.m. and then Coastal Carolina Saturday at 1 p.m.
Yeah, the herd is now 9-5 on the season. I still hate to try to jump the gun here, but I think they've turned a corner. I think
you can tell.
Well, I mean, but even more so than what we were seeing. I think they've turned yet another corner, and there's still going to be wins and losses along the route here, but it's going to take a best effort type game from a lot of our opponents, because if you keep track, like one of my favorite things to go look at is the scoring graphic on ESPN, like the rising lines of the scores. And I always go back to the point to where it was close before the gap started widening. And just for example, this game against South Alabama, where the herd won 90-64, it was close, like basically through the first half. It wasn't, out of reach. I mean, Marshall had a 5-point lead with 3.5 minutes left in the second quarter. And that's kind of where it took off, and specifically in that middle to late third quarter and all of the fourth quarter. We're just running away from other teams. And that speaks more so to the style of play that we just, and the word relentless is the best word. It just is, because they don't tire out. They don't, nobody seemingly can keep pace with them. And even if their shots aren't falling at a fierce pace, they are still able to create more opportunities to make more shots. So it's not like they have to play this stellar defense and also hit 50% from the floor. They can shoot a little under, they can underperform a little bit because they create so many more opportunities for themselves by creating turnovers and rebounds and things like that. So Coach Kim, I'm telling you, last week we said they are meeting expectations. If we have we do another Around the Herd, which we'll obviously do here in about 2 or 3 weeks. That might be the point where we say, okay, they're exceeding expectations now, because it really feels like the road that Herd women's basketball is on is trending upward at a very fast pace. So we got to hit the road for a couple of games, and then we'll finally be back in the CAM. And I want to transition that into this. I don't know if you saw that, but I did, as you were talking about swim and dive. There is a flash sale going on right now on Herd Zone over the next 48 hours. So this probably won't get posted until the 10th. So at that point, you'll have maybe under 24 hours to take advantage of the sale. But all home women's basketball game tickets are going to be $3 a piece. There are 7 games remaining, which means you could essentially buy season tickets for the remainder of the season for $21. Right? But they're giving you the opportunity to just pick and choose. You don't have to buy all 7. You can just pick up a couple. Go buy some tickets and make an point to go see this team at least twice. Not once. Go see them at least twice. So I'm saying pick up early season tickets. Go see those 2 games so that you give yourself an opportunity to go back to a later season game. You might not get that ticket for $3, but it'll be worth the cost of admission because you'll have such a great time for the first 2 times that you go. But man, we are rolling.
Let me tell you how we are rolling. First 6 games of the year, we had leading scorer Rashayla Scott.
Mm-hmm.
That record was 2-4. The final game, she went 0-8 from the field. That was at Moorhead. Dropped her down to 21 points a game. She was up like 24.6, something like that. She scored 4 points in that game. Since then, without her, and I'm not saying it's because we don't have her. I'm saying that this team has stepped up.
Right.
And we are 7-1 with a lone loss being a game against ACC Wake Forest on the road, where we led going into the fourth quarter, and we're still neck and neck with them until the last minute of the game.
Right.
This is a ridiculously good team already. Yeah, I don't think we're going undefeated the rest of the year. Yeah, winning the conference tournament would still be a shock to me in year 1. I'm not putting up any kind of superlatives that I think is putting too much pressure on this team. But for right now, I think they're way ahead of where I thought that they would be in year 1 of bringing in an entirely new system.
Sure are.
And not having a full recruiting class of
Yep.
bringing in the players for that system.
Yeah. Not to mention, we haven't even said this, 3-0 in conference play. So they've lost games, but they were all out of conference games. So the games that truly matter right now, conference games. That's seeding.
Mm-hmm.
That's tournament. That's all that good stuff. Undefeated. And that's where you want to be. You want to take your lumps early in the out of conference so that you're ready to roll for the conference slate. And that's exactly what we're seeing for the Marshall women. And let's go ahead and transition over into the Marshall men, because they too are currently 3-0 in the Sun Belt. Let's have the recap.
Yeah, so they beat ULM 68-57 on the road on Wednesday, and then beat Texas State on the road on Saturday 79-75 in a massive win. Just a quick shout out real quick. We do have a new basketball writer over on ThunderCast.online. Luke Rubin also goes by @HerdHoops on Twitter. He's doing some great breakdowns, and he wrote an article specifically on that game. That's why I want to give him a shout out there.
Mm-hmm.
They host Georgia Southern at 7 p.m. on Wednesday, and then South Alabama Saturday at 4 p.m.
This team these two teams are the only two teams Marshall's program are the only one in the Sun Belt that have undefeated records in men's and women's basketball teams in conference play. They are, for all the lumps that we took early, and there are still lumps to take, obviously, they've quieted a lot of the rumblings and the grouchiness that was there just maybe even a month ago. A lot of it has gone away. You just cannot gloss over how well Obina has been playing lately. You cannot gloss over the automatic double-double that Nate Martin brings every single night. These guys have just provided a different aspect than we had last year, because it's not the backcourt, scoring, doing all the scoring and all this kind of stuff. Also, one thing, it's at Herd Hoops News, not just at Herd Hoops. It's at Herd
I'm
Hoops
sorry.
News.
I
So
would have swore I said that, but I'm sorry.
So follow Luke at Herd Hoops News on Twitter to get some really great basketball insight and coverage. It's not just the articles that he posts that we post for him on ThunderCast.online. He's got a passion for Herd Hoops, right? That's why he's Herd Hoops News. So you get a lot of deep diving opinion and analysis. It's just a good follow if you're a Herd basketball fan. And we thank him for joining us and providing some content at ThunderCast.online. And we should say this, it's because we mentioned that in the last episode that he sent us a DM. So this is a good opportunity to say that again. If you like baseball, if you like softball, if you like volleyball, and you want to write, if you're just, hey, from a fan perspective, like Russ says, we're not looking for anybody to compete with Luke Creasy. That's not what we're after. But if you're a fan of one of those programs or several of those programs, you're like, yeah, I think I'd like to write something for some fun. Holler at us, and we'll fill it out and we'll talk about it. And if it's a good fit, then we got no problems with you guys writing. Also, Trace Johnson did the 19 starting quarterbacks of the FBS era for Marshall, and he did a ranking of those. That's turned into a series, and now currently working on the top 10 running backs of the FBS era for Marshall. We put the first teaser out for that yesterday, number 10. That was Earl Charles. Later today, which of course, again, this episode probably won't go up till tomorrow, so you'll see the tweet already. We're going to tease number 9, so stay tuned for that. Be on the lookout for that, and then we'll send you over to the full article when we're done with teasers. But look for that's going to be a series. I think he's going to go through every position group or a large portion of them anyway. But back to Herd basketball. They're kind of rolling a little bit too. 3-game winning streak. Nice win over Louisiana. Nice win over ULM. Great comeback win against Texas State. So both basketball programs kind of rolling. You mentioned home games. They're still at home this weekend, or they're coming home this weekend. Georgia Southern Wednesday night, and then South Alabama with the new time change on Saturday, 4 p.m. tip-off. 2 big games. Georgia Southern's now a 2-13 team. They had just one win the last time we recorded. South Alabama's a little bit of a mirror image of the Herd record-wise. 8-7 on the season. Herd's 8-8 currently. So get out to the Cam. We're going to be giving tickets away. We make it really easy. You can go sit in our seats, kick back, watch the game, root the guys on. I mean, this is something that we love doing, and we love sending people to the games because it's just a hell of a lot of fun. Russ, what the heck else do we have in Around the Herd?
The only thing that I have is I got a couple of individual notes on players for men's basketball.
Okay.
9.7 rebounds a game for Nate Martin. That's 26th in the nation, and that puts him 0.3 rebounds a game. Not hard to round that up if he can get some good rebounding stats in future games to where he would average a double-double.
Yeah,
he's a threat and gets at most games, but nearly averaging a double-double. And then Obina, as mentioned, has stepped up his game. He is getting 16.2 points a game. That is 4.6 points higher than his career best coming into this game. Last year, only 8.7, so he's nearly doubled his output, just becoming that much more of a threat on the offensive end. He's still a threat on the boards and then on blocking shots. But you see him taking it to the hole in fast break transitions. You just see him rounding out his game. And the last thing I want to say, he's got his 3-point percentage up to 45.2.
Wow.
That is amazing no matter who you are in NCAA. But he is 45.2. His listen to these: freshman 17.2%. Then it shot up his sophomore year, 31.8. Last year, it dipped way back down 14%. It was almost a grimace every time that he took a shot last year because he just seemed to. No, I mean, he seemed to have the yips on him. You know what I mean? It was like a hesitation that he would take. And this year, he does not think about it. It hits his hand. He's got the confidence, and he's nailing it at a very, very good rate. Just wanted to bring those up.
Well, I want to piggyback one other thing, and we're talking about this record, right? It being an 8-8 team. And then remember when we were down the Cayman Islands and we talked about maybe the herd looks vastly different if Oban gets to make the trip. Yeah. And then to come out of that and see how he has improved in all of these facets and all of these categories. And you look back on that and you go, you know what? Maybe it wasn't that far out of the realm to think Marshall could have made some real noise there. And you could be looking at a much better record. You know, you could be looking at a 10-6 team here potentially, but I don't care. What matters, just like I said with the women, is they're 3-0 in conference play. That's what matters. That's what matters. So they're rolling. Both teams are rolling right now. We're going to keep it up. We're going to have some, we need to have some big crowds for the homestand while the boys are at home, and create the environment, which, by the way, the CAM is amongst the tops in Sunbelt basketball attendance for men right now. We need to get that number up for the women, obviously, because they're rolling just as well. Get your butts out there to watch these teams, but kudos to everybody that's going out to watch the men play. I need you to make the same trip and go watch the women play. You've proven that you can make the trip to the CAM. You just need to do it a couple more times, because not that often are both programs home at the same time. So if that's your Wednesday thing and Saturday thing, you should just do it every Wednesday, Saturday, right? But Russ, if you got nothing else, take us out of here.
Now, whether you see us at the CAM, whether you see us at the Joan, no matter where you see us, we're going to be saying, go Herd.
Go Herd. It's the ThunderCast. Get me some Cat in the Hat socks for the fall. We'll see you next week. Later.